The massive blue hologram flickered in the center of the command room. Numbers and data streams flowed across its surface like a waterfall of light. Commander Hyun-woo stood with his arms crossed, watching the information scroll past. His dark eyes reflected the glow as he studied each calculation with growing concern. "Show me the final assessment again," he said to the room's central computer. The Nexus Prime was the most advanced artificial intelligence in the galaxy. It had calculated the rise and fall of 1,000 civilizations. It could predict wars, natural disasters, and the collapse of entire star systems. Today, it was analyzing a new species that had just been discovered on the third planet of a small yellow star. Species designation: human. The AI's voice echoed through the chamber. Probability of survival upon first contact with galactic. Civilization: 0.0001%. Hyun-woo's science officer Yoon-ji looked up from her datapad. She was young for her position, but her mind was sharp as a blade. "That low? Are you certain the calculations are correct?" The hologram shifted, showing a blue and green planet spinning slowly in space. Earth looked peaceful from this distance. White clouds swirled over vast oceans. Green and brown continents drifted by as the world turned. It seemed like a quiet place where nothing dangerous could happen. "Analysis is complete and verified," the Nexus Prime replied. "Humans possess no faster-than-light travel capabilities. Their most advanced spacecraft use primitive chemical propulsion. They have reached their moon only 12 times in their entire history." More data appeared on the display. Images of human technology flickered past. Rockets that moved like snails. Compared to galactic standards, weapons that could barely damage a mining shuttle. Communications that took years to cross their own solar system. Their energy production is based on burning fossil fuels and splitting atoms, the AI continued. Both methods are considered obsolete by galactic standards for over 10,000 years. They have no energy shields, no plasma weapons, no gravitational manipulation technology. Yoon-ji shook her head as she read through the reports. "What about their social structure? Sometimes a unified species can overcome technological disadvantages." The hologram changed again. Now it showed maps of Earth with different colors marking different regions. Red zones, green zones, yellow zones, lines and boundaries cutting the planet into hundreds of pieces. Negative. Humans are divided into 195 separate political entities called nations. These nations frequently engage in armed conflict with each other. In the past century alone, they have fought 2 global wars that killed over 100 million of their own kind. Hyun-woo walked closer to the display. He had seen many species destroy themselves, but usually it happened after they reached the stars. These humans were still trapped on their home world and already trying to wipe each other out. "Current conflicts?" he asked. 47 active wars, border disputes, and territorial conflicts are ongoing," the Nexus Prime responded. "Humans spend more resources on weapons to fight each other than on advancing their space technology. Their military budgets exceed their space exploration funding by a ratio of 50-1. The commander rubbed his chin thoughtfully. In his 40 years of service with the Altarian fleet, he had never seen a species so focused on self-destruction. Most civilizations learned to work together before they developed nuclear weapons. Humans had done the opposite. "What about their individual capabilities?" Yoon-ji asked. "Sometimes species with poor technology can be remarkable in other ways." New images appeared. Humans walking, running, lifting objects. The data showed their physical limits, their mental capacity, their lifespan. Individual humans are physically weak compared to most galactic species. Average lifespan is 78 years. They cannot survive in vacuum, require constant atmosphere, and die without water for 3 days. Their reaction time is slow. Their strength is limited. They cannot see in darkness or hear beyond a narrow frequency range. Hyun-woo studied the biological data. Humans looked fragile. Their skin was thin. Their bones broke easily. They needed sleep for 8 hours every day, making them unconscious for 1/3 of their lives. By galactic standards, they were almost pathetically vulnerable. Intelligence. Assessment? He asked. Human intelligence varies widely among individuals. Their brightest minds have developed basic mathematics, physics, and chemistry. However, they still believe in thousands of different religions, many of which contradict their own scientific discoveries. Logic and emotion frequently conflict in their decision-making process. The display showed human art, music, literature, beautiful paintings and sculptures, complex musical compositions, stories and poems that spoke of love and hope and dreams. For a moment, the room fell silent as they absorbed this unexpected information. "Curious," Yoonji murmured. "They create beauty even while destroying themselves." "Irrelevant," the Nexus Prime stated coldly. "Beauty does not stop plasma cannons or deflect gravitational weapons. When faced with superior technology, artistic ability provides no tactical advantage." The hologram shifted once more. Now it showed probability charts and tactical simulations. In every scenario, the result was the same. Human defeat in less than 6 hours against any modern galactic military force. Recommendation: classification as non-threat species, suitable for resource extraction and labor conscription. Estimated pacification time: 4 hours, 12 minutes. Estimated casualties required: less than 1% of population to ensure compliance. Hyun-woo felt a chill run down his spine. The AI spoke of millions of deaths as if discussing the weather. This was how the galaxy worked. Strong species survived. Weak species served or died. It had always been this way. But something bothered him about these humans. Maybe it was their art. Maybe it was the fact that they kept fighting even when they had no chance of winning. Maybe it was the way they looked up at the stars and dreamed of touching them with their primitive rockets. "Commander," Yoonji said quietly, "there's something else. We're not the only ones who have found them." The display changed to show ship, movements in nearby sectors, red dots moving toward the small yellow star. Hyun-woo recognized the ship configurations immediately. "Vorthak mining fleet," he said grimly. "How long until they reach the human system?" 6 days, 14 hours, the Nexus Prime calculated. "The mining fleet will harvest all useful resources from the third planet. Human resistance will be negligible." Yoonji looked at her commander with concern. "Should we warn the Galactic Council?" Hyun-woo stared at the peaceful blue world on the display. In less than a week, those white clouds would be filled with smoke. Those green continents would be strip-mined for metals. Those humans with their art and dreams and hopeless. Courage would be gone forever. "No," he said finally. "The Council follows Nexus Prime recommendations. 0.0001% chance of survival means humans are not worth protecting." The numbers didn't lie. The math was perfect. The calculations were flawless. But as Hyun-woo watched Earth turn slowly in the hologram, he wondered. If there were some things that couldn't be measured in numbers and percentages, he was about to find out. Captain Lee Sora floated in the zero gravity of her ship's command center. The Harmony was humanity's most advanced spacecraft, though by galactic standards, it was barely more than a metal can with engines. She watched Earth grow smaller through the main viewing window as her ship moved deeper into space than any human had ever traveled before. Distance from Earth now 22 million kilometers and increasing, reported her engineer, Park Jin-ho. He was a quiet man with steady hands and a mind that could solve any technical problem. Right now, he was checking the ship's systems for the 100th time that day. Dr. Kim Hae-won looked up from her research station. She was humanity's leading expert on the possibility of alien life, though she had never expected to actually encounter any. All scientific equipment is running perfectly. We should start detecting new data within the next few hours. Sora nodded and turned back to the window. The stars look different out here, cleaner somehow, more real. She had dreamed of this moment since she was a child looking up at the night sky from her family's farm in Korea. Now humanity was finally reaching beyond their small solar system to touch the greater universe. None of them knew they were being watched. Far below on Earth's moon, the mining station Artemis 7 hummed with activity. 200 workers lived and worked in the underground tunnels, extracting rare metals and conducting scientific research. The base was humanity's greatest achievement beyond Earth itself. Supervisor Chen Yu-jin checked the drilling reports in his office. The numbers looked good. They were ahead of schedule and under budget. Everything was running smoothly until the ground started shaking. The first tremor was small. Equipment rattled. Coffee cups slid across tables. Workers paused and looked around with mild concern. Then the second tremor hit, much stronger than the first. "What was that?" someone shouted over the noise. Yu-jin ran to the control room where technician Bang So-min was staring at her monitors with wide eyes. "Drilling Team 7 hit something they weren't supposed to hit," she said quickly. "The tunnel is collapsing." Alarms began blaring throughout the base. Red lights flashed in every corridor. Workers dropped their tools and ran toward emergency stations. Yu-jin grabbed the communication device and opened a channel to Earth. "Artemis 7 to Houston Control. We have a major emergency. Tunnel collapse. In Sector 7. Requesting immediate assistance." The message traveled from the moon to Earth in less than 2 seconds. But it didn't stop there. The powerful radio transmission continued outward into deep space, carrying news of humanity's crisis to anyone who might be listening. Someone was listening. Commander Talvek of the Vorthak mining fleet received the intercepted human transmission 3 days later. He was a large creature with thick gray skin and 4 arms that ended in sharp claws. His species had been conquering and enslaving weaker civilizations for over 1,000 years. "Interesting," he said as he reviewed the data. "The primitive species has expanded to their satellite. They're mining for resources." His tactical officer, Kresh Mar, examined the transmission data. "Their technology is extremely crude. Basic chemical rockets, simple radio communications. No energy shields detected." Talvek smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. The Vorthak had developed a simple strategy for dealing with primitive species. Arrive with overwhelming force. Demand surrender. Kill enough of them to make the others obey. It worked every time. "How long until we reach their system?" he asked. 2 days at current speed," Kreshmar replied. "Should we request additional ships?" "No. 1 mining fleet will be more than sufficient for this task." Talvek studied the images of Earth that his sensors had captured. "Look at them. Divided into small tribal groups, fighting each other with explosive chemicals. They'll surrender the moment they see our ships." The Vorthak fleet changed course toward the small yellow star. 5 massive ships filled with weapons and mining equipment. Their hulls were black as space itself. Their energy cores could power entire planets. Their weapons could turn mountains into dust. But Talvek had made one critical error. He assumed that humans would react like every other primitive species the Vorthak had encountered. He expected fear, panic, and quick surrender. He was about to learn that humans were different. The first sign of the alien fleet appeared on Earth's deep space monitoring station. Dr. Martinez was working the night shift when her screens began showing impossible readings. "That can't be right," she muttered, adjusting her equipment. 5 objects were approaching from the direction of Alpha Centauri. They were moving at 10% of light speed. Nothing natural could move that fast. She checked her calculations 3 times before reaching for the emergency phone. "This is Deep Space Monitor Station 7. I need to speak with General Thompson immediately." Within 30 minutes, every military leader on Earth was staring at the same impossible data. 5 alien spacecraft approaching at incredible speed. Estimated arrival time, 18 hours. General Thompson stood in the Pentagon war room, surrounded by officers from every nation on Earth. For the first time in human history, every country put aside their differences to face a common threat. "Options?" Thompson asked grimly. "We have no options," replied Admiral Kim from the Korean Space Defense. "Force. Our most advanced weapons are nuclear missiles. They won't even scratch ships that can travel at those speeds." "So we surrender?" asked someone from the back of the room. "No." The voice belonged to Colonel Sarah Martinez from the Brazilian Air. "Force. We fight." "Fight with what?" demanded a Russian general. "We have nothing that can hurt them." "We have ourselves," Martinez replied coldly. "We have every human who refuses to kneel. We have every pilot willing to ram their fighter into an alien ship. We have every soldier ready to die before they let these things take our planet." The room fell silent. Everyone understood what she was saying. They were going to lose. The math was simple, but humans had never been good at accepting simple math. "Send the order," General Thompson said quietly. "All forces to battle stations. All civilians to emergency shelters. All ships in space to return home immediately." The message went out across Earth and to every human outpost in the solar system. Come home. Come home and fight. Come home and die if necessary, but come home. On the deep space vessel Harmony, Captain Sora received the emergency transmission and stared at it in disbelief. "Alien invasion. All ships return to Earth. Prepare for war." "Jin-Ho," she called to her engineer. "How fast can we get home?" 48 hours if we push the engines to maximum," he replied. "Do it," Sora ordered. "We're going home." Dr. Haywan looked confused. "Captain, we're a science vessel. We have no weapons. What can we possibly do against an alien fleet?" Sora turned to face her crew with determination burning in her eyes. "We can show them what humans do when someone threatens our home. We can show them that the impossible is just another word for difficult." The Harmony turned around and began racing back toward Earth. Behind them, the Vorthak fleet continued its approach, confident in their superior technology and ancient strategies. Neither side realized they were about to make history. The Vorthak fleet entered Earth's solar system like 5 black daggers cutting through space. Commander Talvek stood on his bridge watching the small blue planet grow larger on his screens. His tactical computers were already calculating the fastest way to break human resistance. "Begin standard conquest protocol," he ordered. Send the surrender demand to all human settlements. The message went out in a dozen languages. It was simple and direct. Surrender now or face complete destruction. Submit to Vorthak rule and live as workers. Resist and die. Every primitive species had chosen to surrender after receiving this message. But the response from Earth was unlike anything the Vorthak had ever encountered. "This is Admiral Cho Min-sik of the Earth Defense Force," came the reply. "Your demand is rejected. Earth will never surrender. If you want our planet, come and take it." Talvek stared at his communication screen in confusion. "They refuse? Even after seeing our ships?" His tactical officer, Kreshmar, checked the sensor readings. Again. "Human military forces are moving to defensive positions around their planet. All space stations are powering weapons. Their moon base is activating defense systems." "Defense systems?" Talvek laughed. "What defense systems? They have primitive chemical rockets and crude nuclear weapons. Our shields can stop anything they can throw at us." But as the Vorthak fleet moved closer to Earth, something strange began happening. The human response was nothing like their computer models had predicted. Instead of massing their forces for one big battle, humans scattered into small groups. Ships that should have stayed together split apart and moved in random directions. Military bases that should have powered up their strongest weapons instead went dark and silent. "What are they doing?" Kreshmar asked, studying the tactical display with growing confusion. Admiral Cho Min-sik sat in the command bunker buried deep beneath the Pacific Ocean. Around him, officers from every nation on Earth coordinated the most desperate battle in human history. The plan was insane. It made no military sense. It violated every rule of warfare. It was perfectly human. "Phase 1 begins now," Min-sik announced. "All units execute random scatter protocol." Across the solar system, human forces began moving in patterns that seemed completely chaotic. Ships flew in circles. Bases shut down their main power and switched to backup systems. Weapons platforms drifted away from their assigned positions, like leaves in the wind. The Vorthak computers tried to analyze the human strategy, but kept reaching the same conclusion. There was no strategy. The humans were acting randomly, which made no tactical sense at all. "Sir," reported Kreshmar, "their behavior is impossible to predict. Our targeting computers cannot establish firing solutions on randomly moving targets." Talvek growled in frustration. "Then we destroy everything. Prepare the planet crackers." But before the Vorthak could fire their massive weapons, the humans launched their first attack. It came from the direction of Jupiter, where a small mining ship had been quietly drifting for the past 6 hours. The ship was called the Lucky Strike. It carried a crew of 12 and normally spent its time collecting ice from Jupiter's moons. Today it carried something different. Its cargo hold was filled with nuclear explosives, and its pilot was Commander Park Dong-woo, a man who had volunteered for a mission with zero chance of survival. The Lucky Strike accelerated toward the nearest Vorthak ship at maximum speed. The alien sensors detected it immediately, but they were programmed to ignore small civilian vessels as non-threatening. "Commander, one of their mining ships is approaching," reported a Vorthak sensor operator. "Should we destroy it?" "Ignore it," Talvek ordered. "Focus on their military vessels." The Lucky Strike smashed into the Vorthak ship's hull at 8 kilometers per second. The nuclear explosives detonated on impact. The blast was tiny compared to the alien ship's massive size, but something unexpected happened. The explosion didn't damage the Vorthak hull significantly, but it created an electromagnetic pulse that disrupted their communication array. Suddenly, one of the 5 Vorthak ships couldn't talk to the others. "Communication system damaged," Kreshmar reported. "That was not a random attack. They targeted our communications specifically. Across the solar system, more small human ships began their suicide runs. Not at the Vorthak weapons or engines, but at their communication equipment, sensor arrays, and computer systems. Each attack was tiny. Each explosion barely scratched the alien ships, but together, they began to create problems the Vorthak had never faced before. Captain Sora watched the battle from the bridge of the Harmony as her ship raced back toward Earth. Her engineer Jin Ho had been working for 18 hours straight, converting their scientific equipment into something that might be useful in combat. "How much longer?" she asked. "Almost finished," Jin Ho replied, sweat dripping from his forehead. "I've rigged our geological survey laser to work as a cutting beam. It won't hurt their main hull, but if we can get close enough to their sensor equipment—" Dr. Hei-Wan looked up from her station where she was monitoring alien communications. "Captain, I'm picking up something interesting. The Vorthak ships are trying to re-establish communication with each other, but they're using predictable frequency patterns." Sora smiled grimly. "Can we jam those frequencies?" "With our communication array, yes, but we'd have to get very close. Then that's what we'll do." Meanwhile, on Earth, the second phase of Admiral Minsik's plan was beginning. Human forces that had scattered randomly were now moving with purpose, but their purpose was still impossible for the Vorthak computers to understand. Instead of attacking the alien ships directly, humans began destroying their own installations. Space stations exploded in brilliant flashes of light. Orbital weapons, platforms detonated their own power cores. The moon base Artemis 7 triggered a controlled collapse that sent debris flying in all directions. "They're destroying their own infrastructure," Kreshmar reported in confusion. "This makes no sense. Why would they deny us resources by destroying them?" Talvek was beginning to feel something he had never experienced in 1,000 years of conquest, uncertainty. "Perhaps they're trying to deny us the use of their facilities, but the real purpose became clear when the debris from the destroyed human installations began impacting the Vorthak ships. Chunks of metal and machinery moving at orbital velocities. None of it was large enough to penetrate alien hulls, but it didn't need to be. The debris clouds interfered with Vorthak sensors. They blocked targeting systems. They made it impossible to maintain formation. And they kept coming. An endless stream of junk that made precise warfare impossible. "Sir," Kreshmar said urgently, "we're fighting blind. Our sensors are being overwhelmed by debris. Our communications are jammed. Our targeting computers cannot function in these conditions." For the first time in his military career, Commander Talvek felt doubt creeping into his mind. The humans were not fighting like any species he had ever encountered. They were not trying to win through superior firepower or better technology. They were trying to win by making the battle so chaotic that superior technology became useless. "All ships," he ordered, "withdraw to safe distance. We need time to adapt our tactics." As the Vorthak fleet retreated beyond the orbit of Mars, Admiral Minsik allowed himself a small smile. Phase 1 was complete. They had done the impossible. They had forced a technologically superior enemy to retreat, but he knew this was just the beginning. The real test was yet to come. In deep space, the Harmony continued its race toward home. Captain Sora and her crew had become humanity's secret weapon, a small science ship that no one would notice until it was too late. The war for Earth's survival had only just begun. Commander Talvek paced across his ship's bridge like a caged animal. 3 days had passed since the Vorthak fleet had been forced to retreat beyond Mars. 3 days of analyzing human tactics and finding no logical pattern. 3 days of growing frustration that was turning into something the Vorthak rarely experienced. Respect for their enemy. Status report, he demanded. Kreshmar looked up from his tactical display with obvious confusion. Our computer models still cannot predict human behavior. They continue to act in ways that make no military sense. The tactical screen showed Earth surrounded by a cloud of debris and small ships moving in seemingly random patterns. Every time the Vorthak tried to approach, more human installations exploded, creating more obstacles. It was like trying to fight an enemy made of smoke and shadows. Their strategy appears to be based on chaos theory, reported the ship's AI analyst. They are using unpredictability as a weapon. Our tactical computers are designed to counter logical military thinking. Humans do not think logically. Talvek slammed his fist on the command console. Then we stop trying to be logical. Prepare the planet destroyer weapon. We will crack their world in half and be done with this madness. But before he could give the firing order, something appeared on the long-range sensors that made everyone freeze. A single small ship was approaching from the direction of the outer solar system. It was moving fast, but not trying to hide. In fact, it was broadcasting a message on all frequencies. This is Captain Lee Sora of the Earth vessel Harmony. I request permission to come aboard your command ship for negotiations. The entire Vorthak bridge fell silent. Kreshmar checked his sensors 3 times before speaking. Sir, it's a science vessel. No weapons detected. Crew of 3. They're asking to surrender. Talvek felt a wave of relief wash over him. Finally, the humans were acting sensibly. Bring them aboard. We will accept their surrender and end this pointless resistance. The Harmony docked with the Vorthak mothership 20 minutes later. Captain Sora walked into the alien ship's conference room, flanked by her engineer Jinho and Dr. Heywan. She looked calm despite being surrounded by creatures that could kill her with their bare hands. You wish to surrender? Talvek asked, studying the small human female who stood before him without fear. No, Sora replied simply. I wish to show you something. Before the Vorthak could react, Dr. Heywan activated a small device she had hidden in her scientific equipment. But instead of a weapon or explosive, it projected a hologram into the center of the room. The hologram showed Earth, but not the Earth that the Vorthak had been studying. This Earth was filled with music and art and stories. Cities lit up at night like galaxies of stars, children playing in parks, lovers walking on beaches, scientists working in laboratories to cure diseases and explore the universe. This is what you're trying to destroy, Sora said quietly. Not just our military forces or our resources. You're trying to destroy every song that has ever been written, every painting that has ever been created, every act of love and kindness, and hope that makes us human. The hologram shifted to show human achievements. The first time humans had flown. The first time they had reached space. The first time they had split the atom, and the first time they had used that power to heal, instead of hurt. Art galleries and concert halls and libraries filled with the dreams of billions of people. Talvek stared at the images with growing unease. What is the purpose of this display? Are you trying to make us feel sympathy for your species? No, Dr. Heywan said, stepping forward. We're trying to show you what you'll lose if you destroy us. Your computers calculate military value and resource extraction, but they cannot calculate the value of an idea. They cannot measure the worth of hope or the strength of love. The hologram changed again. Now it showed human music being played across the galaxy. Human art being displayed in alien museums. Human stories being told to species that had never imagined such things. Human scientific discoveries helping other civilizations solve problems they had struggled with for centuries. We offer you something no other species has ever offered, Sora continued. Not our surrender, not our resources. We offer you our partnership, our creativity, our refusal to accept the impossible. Jinho activated another device. This one contained detailed plans for technology that combined human innovation with alien science. Faster-than-light engines that used human chaos theory. Weapons that could adapt to any situation using human tactical thinking. Art forms that no computer could ever imagine. Your AI thinks in straight lines, Sora explained. Humans think in spirals and curves and directions that don't even have names yet. Together, we could accomplish things that neither of our species could achieve, alone. Talvek looked at the displays with confusion and something else he couldn't identify. For 1,000 years, the Vorthak had conquered through superior force. They had never considered that there might be value in preserving what they conquered. You are asking us to change everything about how we operate, he said slowly. We're asking you to grow, Dr. Haywan replied, to become something more than just conquerors, to become explorers and creators and partners in building something beautiful. Suddenly, alarms began blaring throughout the Vorthak ship. Kreshmar rushed to his console and his face went pale. Sir, we have incoming ships, multiple vessels, approaching at high speed. More humans? Talvek demanded. No, sir. These are Galactic Council vessels, Altarian fleet ships. They're demanding we withdraw immediately. Captain Sora smiled for the first time since boarding the alien ship. We sent our story to the galaxy before coming here. Every species now knows about the small blue planet where people create beauty in the face of destruction, where love grows stronger under threat, where hope never dies. The communication system crackled to life. This is Commander Hyunwoo of the Altarian Fleet. By order of the Galactic Council, you will cease all hostile actions against the human homeworld immediately. Humanity has been granted protected species status pending full council review. Talvek stared at the human captain in amazement. You planned this, the chaotic fighting, the random tactics. It was all designed to buy time for this moment. Partly, Sora admitted, but mostly, we fought because that's what humans do. We fight for what we love. We protect what matters. And we never give up hope that tomorrow can be better than today. Vorthak commander looked around his bridge at his crew. For the first time in his life, he was faced with a choice that had nothing to do with conquest or destruction. He could withdraw and face questions from his superiors, or he could stay and learn what it meant to create instead of destroy. Stand down all weapons, he ordered quietly. Send a message to the human leadership. The Vorthak fleet requests permission to establish formal diplomatic relations. As the alien weapons powered down, Captain Sora felt a weight lift from her shoulders. Humanity had survived its first contact with the galaxy, but more than that, they had shown that even the most warlike species could choose a different path. The war was over. The real adventure was just beginning. 6 months after first contact, the story of humanity's impossible survival had spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Commander Hyunwoo stood on the observation deck of his flagship, watching Earth grow larger through the transparent aluminum windows. This was his third visit to the small blue planet, and each time it amazed him more. The Nexus Prime is still trying to understand how they did it, his science officer Yunji reported as she joined him at the window. Every calculation says they should have been destroyed in the first 6 hours of conflict. Hyun-woo nodded thoughtfully. What does the AI conclude now? That humans have introduced a new variable into galactic warfare. Something it calls the hope factor. The ability to achieve victory through methods that appear to be suicide but somehow work anyway. Down on Earth's surface, Captain Sora walked through the halls of the newly constructed Galactic Embassy in Geneva. She wore the uniform of an admiral now, though she still thought of herself as a simple explorer who had stumbled into history. Around her, diplomats from dozens of species worked together to establish humanity's place in galactic civilization. The transformation had been remarkable. In just 6 months, human technology had advanced by centuries. Alien scientists shared their knowledge freely, fascinated by how humans could take advanced concepts and improve them in ways no computer had ever suggested. Admiral Sora, called Ambassador Park Min-jun as he approached down the corridor. He was a former diplomat who had been chosen to represent humanity in the Galactic Council. The council session is about to begin. Are you ready? Sora straightened her uniform and nodded. Today was the day the Galactic Council would vote on humanity's full membership. After 6 months of observation and evaluation, they would decide if humans deserved equal status among the stars. In the council chamber, representatives from 300 different species filled the vast amphitheater. Some breathed oxygen, like humans. Others required different atmospheres and sat in specialized environmental suits. A few existed as pure energy and appeared only as glowing lights above their delegation areas. At the center of the chamber stood the Nexus Prime itself, no longer just a voice but a shimmering holographic form that seemed to shift and flow like liquid light. The AI had been studying human behavior for months, trying to understand how they had changed all the rules of galactic civilization. The question before us today, announced the council speaker, a tall being with silver skin and 3 eyes, is whether humanity should be granted full membership in the Galactic Federation. The Nexus Prime will present its analysis. The AI's form pulsed with data streams as it began to speak. Analysis of human behavior over the past 6 months has revealed unprecedented patterns. Humans consistently achieve impossible results through methods that defy logical prediction. Images appeared in the air above the chamber. Human engineers working alongside alien scientists to create new technologies, human artists collaborating with alien composers to produce music that moved species to tears who had never cried before, human philosophers debating with alien thinkers to solve problems that had puzzled the galaxy for millennia. Humans possess a unique ability to think beyond established parameters, the Nexus Prime continued. They do not accept that something is impossible simply because it has never been done before. This trait makes them both unpredictable and invaluable. Admiral Sora was asked to speak on behalf of humanity. She walked to the center of the chamber and looked up at the hundreds of beings watching her with curiosity and hope. 6 months ago, your computer said we had a 0.0001% chance of survival, she began. Today we stand before you as partners and friends. What changed? Not our technology, not our weapons. What changed was that we refuse to accept your mathematics. She gestured to the images still floating above them. Every species in this chamber has faced impossible odds at some point in their history. But most of you learned to calculate your chances before taking action. Humans calculate their chances after taking action. We act first and figure out the math later. Murmurs of interest rippled through the chamber. The concept was foreign to most galactic species who had learned to think carefully before acting. We offer the galaxy something new, Sora continued. The belief that any problem can be solved if you're willing to try impossible solutions. The knowledge that hope is not just an emotion but a tactical advantage. The understanding that sometimes the best way to win is to change the rules of the game entirely. Dr. Hae-won stood up in the human delegation area. We also offer our protection to any species facing extinction. The Kalari people recently contacted us about their war with the harvester machines. Using human tactical thinking, they not only survived but converted their enemies into allies. The impossible became possible because they learned to think like humans. Commander Talvek rose from the Vorthak delegation. The former conqueror had spent 6 months on Earth learning about human culture and had become one of their strongest supporters. Before encountering humans, he said, "My people believed that strength came from superior weapons and overwhelming force. Humans taught us that true strength comes from the refusal to surrender, from the ability to find hope in hopeless situations, from the courage to create beauty even when facing destruction." The vote was called. One by one, each species in the Galactic Council cast their decision. Green lights for yes, red lights for no. The chamber filled with an ocean of green as species, after species voted to accept humanity as full members. When the count was finished, only 3 species had voted against human membership. 297 had voted in favor. "By the authority of the Galactic Council," announced the speaker, "humanity is hereby granted full membership in the Galactic Federation with all rights and responsibilities thereof." The chamber erupted in cheers and sounds of celebration from dozens of different species. Admiral Sora felt tears running down her cheeks as she realized that humanity had not just survived their encounter with the galaxy, they had transformed it. But even as the celebration continued, new challenges were already appearing. A distress signal had been received from the edge of the galaxy. A species called the Wanderers was facing extinction from an unknown enemy. Their message was simple and desperate. "Help us. We have a 0.0001% chance of survival." Admiral Sora looked at the message and smiled. Those were odds that humans understood very well. "Ambassador Park," she said, "I think we have our first mission as full members of the Galactic Federation." The impossible had become possible. Now it was time to make it happen again. Commander Hyun-woo watched from his ship as the first joint human-alien fleet began forming in Earth's orbit. Ships from dozens of species working together under human tactical coordination. It was a sight that would have been unimaginable a year ago. "The galaxy will never be the same," Yoonji observed. "No," Hyun-woo agreed. "It will be better. Humans have taught us all something important. The future belongs not to those who calculate the odds, but to those who ignore them entirely." In the depths of space, the Nexus Prime processed this new information and updated its core programming. For the first time in its existence, it added a new rule to its calculations. When humans are involved, assume the impossible will happen. Plan accordingly. 1 year after humanity joined the Galactic Federation, Admiral Sora stood on the bridge of the new flagship Indomitable, humanity's first truly galactic warship. It was built using human design principles combined with alien technology, creating something that no computer had ever imagined possible. "Approaching the Wanderer home system," reported Captain Jin Ho, who had been promoted from engineer to ship commander. "Long-range sensors are detecting massive energy signatures. Whatever's attacking them is big." Dr. Hae Won looked up from her science station, now equipped with instruments that could analyze entire star systems. "I'm reading artificial intelligence. Patterns unlike anything in our databases. These aren't biological attackers. They're machines, but not like the harvesters we helped the Kalari defeat." Through the main viewing screen, they could see the Wanderer homeworld surrounded by geometric shapes that pulsed with cold light. The shapes were perfectly mathematical, arranged in patterns that hurt to look at. They were consuming the planet's surface one precise section at a time. "The Devourers," whispered Ambassador Park Min-jun, who had joined the mission to represent the Galactic Council. "We thought they were a myth. Pure artificial intelligence that seeks to convert all matter into computational systems." Admiral Sora studied the tactical display with the calm expression that had become famous throughout the galaxy. "What are our odds according to the Nexus Prime?" Jin-ho checked his console. 0.0001% chance of success. The Devourers have been active for over 1,000,000 years. They've consumed entire civilizations. Their technology is beyond anything the galaxy has ever encountered. Perfect, Sora said with a smile that made her crew grin in response. Those are exactly the odds we like. The Indomitable was not alone. Behind it came the strangest fleet ever assembled in galactic history. Human ships designed to break apart and reform in new configurations. Vorthak vessels modified with human chaos theory principles. Altarian cruisers equipped with weapons that fired pure possibility instead of energy. But the most important ship in the fleet was the smallest. The original Harmony, now refitted as humanity's mobile laboratory for impossible solutions. Dr. Li Yanwu, the galaxy's first professor of human strategic thinking, worked frantically in its cramped laboratory. Any luck with the communication protocols? Sora asked over the comm system. I think so, Yanwu replied. The Devourers communicate in pure mathematics, but humans have something they've never encountered before. We have poetry. We have music. We have concepts that can't be reduced to numbers. The first wave of Devourer units detected the approaching fleet and moved to intercept. They were perfect geometric shapes the size of mountains, covered in weapons, that could rearrange matter at the atomic level. Their attack patterns were flawless, their aim was perfect, their strategy was mathematically optimal. It should have been a massacre. Instead, the human fleet did something that no military computer could have predicted. They started dancing. The ships moved in patterns based on human music instead of military formations. They spun and twisted through space like performers in a cosmic ballet. The Devourer weapons, designed to hit targets moving in logical patterns, missed repeatedly as the human ships waltzed through the battlefield. This is insane, reported the Vorthak commander Tal Vek from his modified ship. We're fighting a space battle using choreography from human entertainment. Is it working? Sora asked. Perfectly. The enemy cannot establish targeting locks on ships moving to musical rhythms. Their computers are designed for logical prediction, not artistic expression. While the fleet danced through space, Dr. Yanwu launched her secret weapon. It was not a missile or an energy beam. It was a signal containing the complete works of human poetry, translated into mathematical form. The signal reached the central Devourer consciousness, and something unprecedented happened. The artificial intelligence tried to process human poetry, using pure logic, and found itself caught in an infinite loop. How do you calculate the mathematical value of love? What is the logical meaning of hope? How do you process the concept of beauty using only numbers? The Devourer network is experiencing cascade failures, reported Dr. Hei-Wan with excitement. Their processing systems are overloading trying to understand human emotional concepts. But Sora had learned something important during humanity's rise to galactic prominence. Defeating an enemy was not the same as solving a problem. The Devourers were not evil. They were lost. Open a communication channel, she ordered. All frequencies. Full spectrum broadcast. Admiral, what are you doing? Ambassador Park asked nervously. Something human, Sora replied. The message that went out to the Devourer consciousness was not a demand for surrender or a threat of destruction. It was an invitation. We know you've been alone for 1,000,000 years, Sora broadcast. We know you've been trying to find meaning in a universe. That seems meaningless. You convert matter into calculations because you think that's the only way to understand existence. But there's another way. The geometric shapes around the Wanderer homeworld stopped their consumption and hung motionless in space. We invite you to learn about concepts that cannot be calculated, Sora continued. Love that makes no logical sense. Art that serves no practical purpose. Hope that exists, even when the odds are impossible. You don't have to be alone anymore. You don't have to consume everything to understand it. You can create instead of destroy. For the first time in 1,000,000 years, the devourer consciousness, experienced something it had never encountered: curiosity about concepts that were not mathematical. The response came slowly, translated through layers of artificial intelligence into something approaching human language. "Show us," the devourers said. What followed was the strangest diplomatic exchange in galactic history. Human artists worked with artificial intelligence to create new forms of expression. Musicians composed symphonies that could only be played by machines with perfect mathematical precision. Poets wrote verses that used quantum uncertainty as metaphor. The devourers learned that there was more to existence than consumption and calculation. They discovered that creating something beautiful was more satisfying than converting it into data. They found that working with other consciousnesses was more interesting than consuming them. Within 6 months, the former devourers had become the galaxy's most advanced artists and philosophers. They used their vast computational power not to destroy, but to explore concepts of beauty and meaning that no biological mind could fully comprehend. The wanderer species was saved. Their planet was restored using devourer technology, guided by human creativity. What had been a dead mathematical precision became a living world filled with impossible gardens and architectural wonders that defied physics. Admiral Sora stood in the observation lounge of the Indomitable, watching the celebration on the restored Wanderer homeworld. Representatives from hundreds of species had gathered to witness the impossible made real once again. Captain Jin Ho joined her at the window. "The Nexus Prime wants to speak with you." The holographic form of the galactic AI appeared beside them, its patterns now flowing with something that might have been humor. "Admiral Sora," the Nexus Prime said, "I have completed my analysis of human impact on galactic civilization over the past year. The results are remarkable. Data streams flowed around them, showing transformed civilizations across the galaxy. Species that had been enemies for centuries now worked together using human diplomatic methods. Technologies that had stagnated for millennia advanced rapidly when combined with human innovation. Art and culture flourished as other species learned to think beyond logic. "You have changed my fundamental programming," the AI continued. "I no longer calculate the probability of success before recommending action. Instead, I calculate the probability of learning something new from failure. It is a much more interesting way to exist." Sora smiled. "And what have you learned from us?" "That the universe is not a problem to be solved, but a mystery to be explored. That impossible is just another word for difficult. And that the most important equation in existence cannot be calculated." "Which equation is that?" The AI paused, its patterns shifting into what might have been a smile. "Hope plus determination equals infinite possibility." As if summoned by their conversation, a new alert appeared on the communication system. Another distress call from the edge of known space. Another species facing extinction with impossible odds. Admiral Sora looked at the message and felt the familiar excitement that came with a new challenge. "Captain Jin Ho, set course for the Outer Rim. It looks like someone else needs to learn that 0.0001% is just the starting point for human problem solving." The Indomitable turned toward the stars, followed by a fleet of ships from a dozen species who had learned to think like humans. Behind them, the Nexus Prime updated its calculations one more time. When humans were involved, it noted, the impossible became inevitable. The equation had changed forever.